Hi, friends, and welcome. On today's adventure, we're headed for the woodlands of western Michigan for a fall wild turkey hunt. Yeah, we're chasing thunder chickens, and we're going to start with cameraman Dave Golden on a hunt that, well, let's just say it kind of ends up unexpectedly. And then we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to go on an after-school hunt with young pro staffer Kyle Jr. Now, I have to tell you, he has really got his heart set on putting a little bit of wild in his family's Thanksgiving menu. But first, we're going to go afield with Dave. He's sitting in a pop-up blind, waiting on shooting light and hopefully a turkey to show up. Hey, I'm your host, Kyle Randall. This is my Wilderness Journal, and we're going out wild turkey hunting right now. In the gloom of the early dawn, I was doing a little bit of calling, and then we saw something. Something was coming.
It's a house cat. Yep. What do you suppose that was doing?
It's probably hunting turkeys just like we are.
I'm here to tell you house cats are a bigger problem than people know when it comes to killing things out in the wild.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably get a lot of the little poultries.
Oh, yeah.
A house cat wasn't exactly what we were hoping to call in. We had roosted some pretty good birds not a couple 100 yards from where we were set up, and we were kind of hoping that if we kept at it, one of them might show. And a few calls and a few minutes later, something else was coming. And this time, it was a deer. Yeah, nice little buck.
Little boy.
We watched as he cut across in front of our decoys and then trotted off back into the woods. And then we saw another deer, this time a doe, actually a doe and a fawn working their way out through the trees.
Is that same little buck?
No, it's a doe. There's another one coming behind it. Probably it's fawn.
Yeah, I just saw the shadow. Tree.
Obviously, I was calling in some critters. Yeah, just not the right critter, at least not yet. A house cat and a couple of deer. Not exactly a resounding endorsement of my turkey calling skills. Still, we knew there were turkeys around. Randy, the landowner that lets us hunt there, had told us he was seeing all kind of them working up and down the edges of his bean fields. We knew there were birds here. All we could do was keep at it, and fortunately, about 20 minutes later,
See him there?
we finally had a turkey coming into our calling. He was coming in from the right, working in behind the decoys.
That looks like a tom. That is a tom. Big tom. We got a little too close, I think, buddy.
I think so too.
From the way this bird was acting, I was fairly convinced we'd set up too close to the roost. The birds had moved a little farther out than the last time we saw them, and even though we set up in the dark, we must have spooked them getting in here all the noise, because this bird was actually avoiding us. He wasn't talking, he wasn't anything.
Another tom.
There's two running out there. I see them now.
And then I realized he wasn't avoiding us, he was going out to some other birds.
Yeah, I do.
Those two toms.
Yeah, there might be three in there, but they're going the wrong way.
No, there's turkeys coming our way. There's a bunch of turkeys coming our way.
And then I saw a whole bunch more birds coming. There was a whole flock getting together about 100 yards out in front of us.
guess a bunch of hens ran out there. They're running around.
We could see toms and hens and a bunch of jakes. There were turkeys running all over the place. Unfortunately, they weren't running into us.
It's like they try to come a little closer and then they go back out a ways.
Yeah, that group of hens come running in there didn't help her cause any.
No. Boy, there's a bunch of them though.
Yep, there is.
I kept calling, figuring sooner or later I'm going to get some of their attention, and hopefully then they'll start working our way.
By cows, they're coming in.
Yeah.
Look like 20 or better. Maybe 30.
There comes a couple more toms right there. No,
I did a little more soft calling. We finally had them coming our way. The hens were pulling the toms in. If we could get past them, Dave was going to have his pick of a bunch of toms following along behind.
there's a mess of them coming across there.
I see a whole line of them coming at us.
They're working.
There was a group of jakes to the right, a bunch of hens and toms coming from the left. All we needed was for a few of these birds, any of the bigger birds, to get in here, and then, well, then it was going to be on Dave.
Get the hens in, they ought to follow.
I hope so.
We finally had them on the hook. Now all I needed to do was reel them in. 20 or 30 more yards, that's all we needed. Just bring them in a little closer, and of course not get caught ourselves.
They're kind of cutting across.
I see that.
I was calling to them as they worked their way across in front of us.
Boy, there's some big birds in there.
And then I finally got the lead hen's attention.
Yeah, baby. That's the sound.
We finally had the big birds coming, and then I saw something else coming from the right.
Coyote. Right there in front of us.
Maybe he'll chase them to us.
The birds were all alarm putting. They'd seen that coyote coming in trying to get himself some breakfast. I did try a little more calling, but the only attention I got was from that coyote.
Hey, what's going on? What are you hunting?
Oh, maybe coyotes.
A coyote. Man, I tell you, sometimes it just doesn't work the way you'd hoped. Still, coyotes gotta eat too, and that's not the first time I've called in one using a turkey call. In fact, it happens so often anymore, I've taken to using turkey calls and decoys to hunt predators later in the year, and unfortunately, Dave would have to wait till later in the year as well. He'd have to get another day off before we could go back out and chase them turkeys. Kyle Jr., on the other hand, he gets out of school every day about 3:30, so later that week in the afternoon, with a soft north breeze blowing and the colors beginning to brighten up, it was definitely time.
All right, Fall Turkey 2016, you ready?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Got your Grammy's gun,
Yes.
your pa's hat, and a big appetite. All we need's turkey, right?
Yep.
You make sure that gun's unsafe. Keep your finger off the trigger. We'll start calling here a little bit.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Yes.
You comfortable?
Yes, I am comfortable.
We were set up on the edge of a long, narrow food plot, and I was doing just a little bit of calling. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we noticed there was something moving down through the trees.
I see her. Looks like a doe.
Yes. It is.
She's a little curious as to what you are. Either this blind or that our decoys, one or the other.
The decoys.
Boys, she said, now what is that?
Restraint.
This doe was getting more and more curious, which was okay from an entertainment standpoint, but I really didn't want her walking down here and then snorting and blowing.
Because that's as far as I can shoot, basically, right? That deer is as far as I can.
If she started that, no self-respecting Tom in the county would walk out here.
She's saying, now what is that?
A person. Me.
See her stamp her feet. She's trying to get you to move.
There comes a little buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, from about the same place as the doe, a little buck started working his way out into the food plot.
That's the way it works when you're hunting turkeys. That's what you see is deer.
And when you're hunting deer, you see.
And that was a little too far away.
Yeah.
Critters are starting to move. Hopefully the turkeys will.
Yep.
We sat there watching the deer feed until they spooked and ran back in. But so far, no turkeys. The deer were obviously moving. Unfortunately, that season wasn't open, not yet. We just have to sit there and keep calling, and who knows, maybe an actual turkey would find it interesting sooner or later. And then one did. We heard it and then saw it. A tom was working its way out of the pine trees, slowly picking in our
Looks
direction.
like a tom, too. See that one?
We watched, and one tom became two.
They still gotta come a long ways.
And then there were 3 or 4. There were several young birds and at least 1 or 2 good toms, and they were coming our way. And then suddenly they made a right-hand turn.
I think they're leaving.
It looked like they were going to come in through the trees behind us, so I looked over to move Kyle around to get him a shot, and there stood a deer. There was a little deer standing just outside the blind. If I tried to move Kyle now, he would snort, spook, and everything would blow up. And then the little deer did spook. Fortunately, he didn't stomp or nothing. He just run off a little ways. I tried just a little bit of calling. We could still see a couple of toms. And then that deer, he came marching right back up in front of us. Every time we tried to move, that little deer would stare. There really was nothing Kyle could do. He'd just have to sit there and wait it out and hope once this deer moved on that we could call those turkeys back out into gun range. And then for some reason spooked. I looked over and the turkeys were leaving too. Something had spooked everything.
There they go. Something just spooked them.
Even the deer.
Yeah. Everything ran. There must be a coyote or a bobcat or something. Something spooked them. I don't know what it was. Something. Even them little deer ran.
This was a good hunt.
We got close. We get we'll set up a little different. And hopefully tomorrow morning we'll get a shot at them. Okay?
At least we know they're here.
Yeah. There's some nice toms too. We'll try it. We'll try a little more calling, but I think they're gonna head off to roost. It's almost 7 o'clock.
Having those toms spook just before getting into shotgun range was more than a little anticlimactic for young Kyle. He was ready to throw in the towel and go home, but I told him, look, we've got over an hour of legal hunting time left, and there's no reason to quit. Those birds didn't go out of here with their head on fire. We might call one of them back out, might call in some other birds. I don't know. What I do know is if we go home, we're definitely not going to fill your tags sitting on the couch. Friends, you just can't quit. Hunting's like that. There's no guarantee. All I can guarantee is you have to try, because if you don't try, you don't get. And to put a fine point on that statement, not 10 minutes into our next call-in session, a group of what appeared to be jakes were working their way out into the food plot. They, like the big toms, were picking their way across the opening, headed more or less toward our decoys.
Can you see them? Okay. They're going down in that little hole. They'll pop up on the other side closer to us. Just relax.
They'd already made it in farther than the other group of toms had, but Kyle still needed a good 40 or 50 yards to have a reasonable shot. All we could do was soft talk them, hopefully keep their attention, and then maybe...
You see, all right? Mm-hmm. We're going to shoot the closest bird as long as he's out in the open. How's that? Is that all right? You don't have to sight yet. Just wait till they come. And remember, let them spread out. Okay?
The birds had worked in pretty steady, but now they were starting to go the way the other toms had, so I decided it was time.
Let me call them a little bit. I'll get them fired up. They're coming. They're going to come. There's some turkeys behind us. We got it. They're coming.
Finally, we had them.
The toms.
Okay, all steady now. Shoot that front one when easy. Don't move quickly, slowly. Let him get closer. Let them separate. They're too close together. Just get on them. They're separating. The one closest to the decoy is the one that's strutting. Shoot when his head comes out. Wait for him to turn. Okay, you can shoot him when you want. There you go, buddy. Great shot. Sweet. Nice, man.
My ears. It's a little shaky.
Put it down right there by that tree. Nice job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you think?
It's a nice young Jake.
Not a bad way to spend a Friday after school, huh?
Nah.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
This is one of the best Fridays after school.
Yeah. Tell the truth, though. You were ready to leave after those toms walked off.
Yes, I was ready to leave.
Yeah. That's why you listen to the old guy, right?
Yes.
It ain't over till it's over. That ain't one of them big old toms, but I tell you what, you're absolutely right. That'll eat really good. That'll be sitting on the Randall family Thanksgiving table, keeping a tradition alive. You know, we've been having wild turkey for Thanksgiving dinner for, boy, it's got to be almost 20 years in a row, since long before you were born. And with the help of yourself, and, you know, I actually have a tag. Maybe I could go out now and hunt. What do you think? It'd be all right.
Small one, yeah.
Yeah. What, you think you can get up?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? Think maybe we ought to go show Grammy a little turkey dinner?
Yes.
All right, grab that baby. Let's go. That, my friends, is why you never quit. You never give up. Turkey hunting is like every other kind of hunting. It doesn't always end the way you expect. It is challenging. It's exciting. Sometimes it's disappointing, but it also is difficult, and that's what makes it rewarding and fun. And that is exactly what Kyle Jr. got out of that trip. I want to congratulate him again. He did stick it out, and he got a great memory and a plump eater for the family Thanksgiving dinner. That's exactly what we go afield looking for, hoping for every time we hunt fall turkeys. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this trip. I hope you get out there and chase some thunder chickens around. It's a great addition to a meal any and every time. And I hope you stick it out to the very last chance, because you absolutely cannot fill a tag riding home. Hey, if you do go out, maybe you'll bump into us. And if we see you out there, well, you know we're going to stop and share that cup and a fire. And if I don't see you out there, friends, well, then I'll be waiting for you right back here so we can share another adventure from my Wilderness Journal.